Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope your day is going great. Today we're gonna just expose some more stuff like we always do, dash and deception constantly, and talk about this fake cannabis that's going around. And I want to warn people to watch out. And the reason why there's a need for so-called fake cannabis, which there's nothing wrong with cannabis, people still don't realize it's a holy flower, for crying out loud, that was mistranslated in the Bible. They're being pushed to smoke synthetic cannabis, which is very, very bad. And I'm going to show you the latest news story. And all of these so-called drug testing policies are indeed unconstitutional. I'm sick of hearing people say, oh, if you're unemployed, if you have food stamps, if you do this, they should be required to drug test. These sick bastards. No. No one has a right to ask for your bodily fluids for anything. That's violating the Fourth Amendment. Obviously, these let's just call them tards, do not know the law, don't care about your rights. On Patreon, I put a lot of different waivers. I'm going to put a lot of my law links on that, okay, for anyone who's serious about learning their rights. And I'm here to empower people because they think this is the way it's been in my lifetime, so it must be normal. Like, really, sickos. But look in Florida. Of course, they're a breeding ground for all this stuff. And this is something called spice, guys.
A serious warning tonight from Florida Poison Control. Dozens of people have been rushed to the hospital after smoking synthetic marijuana, also known as spice. Justin Schechter is live outside Tampa General Hospital for us tonight. And Justin, some of these patients could be fighting for their lives.
That's right, Keith. Good evening to you. It is never a good idea to experiment with an illegal synthetic drug. Like you mentioned, this is really serious. A local poison control expert tells 8 on Your Side the bleeding caused by smoking this spice is so severe, some patients may not survive. Tonight, Hillsborough County emergency rooms are on high alert.
We have already notified the ERs. What we want to do is get the message out to the public that this stuff is out there.
A spike in patients are needing to be hospitalized after smoking spice, according to the Florida Poison Information Center.
The issue is that they never know what they're getting.
The center's managing director in Tampa, Alfred Alegwas, says at least 40 sick patients purchased a synthetic drug locally that's contaminated with something, causing sudden, severe, and potentially life-threatening bleeding.
So if you happen to catch yourself shaving, that you know how that you usually clot within a minute or two, it would bleed for hours.
Back in 2018, Alegwas says one person from the Tampa area died during a spice outbreak across several states that poisoned more than 300 people. No reported deaths during this outbreak that is so far contained to Hillsborough County. But Alegwas says some patients have left the hospital only to return.
We have to make sure that the patients have an adequate supply of the antidote when they get discharged, because it's also very expensive. And that they follow up with their doctors, because we've had some patients that have signed themselves out against medical advice and then re-presented at an emergency room even worse than they were before.
That's why I tell people you really should have activated charcoal in your house at all times, because you never know when you're going to take something that's poisonous. And don't you love how the idiots would be like, if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to fear. Like, really? So you're saying it's okay for the government to take whatever they want from your body? What's next? Your organs? I mean, that's where we're going. That's why many people are going missing, right? I mean, you keep saying, sure, it's all good. No, it's not all freaking good. So just in case you didn't know, because we're all about your rights and the Constitution, you didn't know, the Constitution has a lot of biblical principles that are being scoffed at now, but the more people scoff at the Bible, the more they scoff at their own rights. So here, They have already ruled that it is indeed unconstitutional. No one has a right, even for these jobs. Don't sell yourself out for a few dollars. People put way too much stock in these bullshit jobs that like literally take more from you than they give to you. Okay. So right here, this read a little bit of it. This was published in December 2014. Okay, so it's been out for a while. As Florida public employers, housing authorities should be aware of a recent case regarding the constitutionality of a governmental body's personal policy that mandated drug testing for all job applicants. See Voss versus City of Key West, 2014. In our experience, many public housing authorities have a similar policy of testing all job applicants across the board, and this new decision warrants a careful review of those common employment practices. Michael J. Roper, Esquire, of Bell and Roper, Pennsylvania, or PA, in Orlando, maybe that's Pennsylvania, performs quite a bit of insurance defense work for housing authorities we work with here in Florida. He brought this important case to my attention a few months ago, and several of you have asked how to proceed with pre-employment drug testing given this ruling. Much of the analysis that follows was supplied by Mr. Roper, and I want to thank him at the outset for allowing me to use, modify, and supplement his expert analysis on this matter. In Voss Supra, the City of Key West had implemented a drug-free workplace policy that provided for 1. Post-offer testing for all applicants for employment, 2. Reasonable suspicion testing, and 3. Random testing for safety-sensitive positions. The plaintiff applied for and was offered the newly created position of solid waste coordinator, contingent in part upon her submission of a urine sample and a successful completion of a standard drug screen. The plaintiff signed an employee acknowledgement agreement reflecting her agreement to submit voluntarily to the test and her understanding that her refusal to test would disqualify her from employment. Thereafter, the plaintiff refused to submit to the drug test and instead went directly to the city attorney and objected to undergoing the pre-employment drug screen. Due to her refusal to submit to the drug test, the position was offered to and accepted by another candidate. The plaintiff then filed suit against the city, alleging that the requirement for her to undergo a mandatory drug test violated her civil rights. In ruling upon the plaintiff's motion for summary judgment, the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, Key West Division, first of all, noted the well-settled precedent that drug testing that utilizes urinalysis is a search that falls within the ambit of the 4th and 14th Amendments. As such, in order to be reasonable, the search must ordinarily be based upon an individualized suspicion of wrongdoing. So they're already like labeling you guilty before being proven innocent. So remember that this is a really good reference. However, the U.S. Supreme Court has recognized exceptions to that rule where the government proffers a special need or an important governmental interest that is furthered by the minimal intrusion. Accordingly, the city proffered two alternative important governmental interests in an effort to justify the suspicionless testing of job applicants. First, the city argued that it had an important interest in the safe, effective, and efficient delivery of public services. Second, The city argued that the position was safely sensitive because the coordinator must occasionally supervise the transfer station and give presentations to school-aged children. The district court, relying primarily upon the Supreme Court's decision in Chandler v. Miller, 520 U.S. 305, 1997, rejected the city's argument regarding the safe and effective delivery of services as being merely a symbolic interest and therefore insufficient to justify the search. The court indicated that there was no record evidence of a serious problem with drug abuse amongst job applicants or city employees, which might serve to justify the suspicionless testing regimen. The court also rejected the city's argument that the coordinator position was safety sensitive so as to justify the testing. The court analyzed the essential requirements of the job and concluded that the coordinator was really not actively engaged in safety-related duties. The court also distinguished this case from Skinner versus Railway Labor Executives Association, 489 U.S. CO2, 1989, which found that certain surpassing safety interests would justify suspicionless drug testing. In Skinner, the court was presented with evidence that on-the-job intoxication resulted in multiple fatalities and other injuries over a 10-year period. In Voss, the city was unable to produce any such similar history of accidents or injuries in the solid waste department resulting from intoxication. Finally, the court rejected the city's argument seeking to draw a distinction between current employees and applicants for employment. The city, relying primarily upon the prior decision in Wilner v. Thornburg, 927 F. 2nd 1185 D.C. Circuit 1991, argued that suspicionless testing of job applicants was reasonable under the Fourth Amendment because applicants can refrain from applying for positions that require pre-employment drug testing. In reaching this conclusion, the district court judge stated in pertinent part as follows: there is no precedent in this circuit which holds that the government can violate a person's rights under the Fourth Amendment, so long as prior notice of the impending violation is given. Accordingly, the court finds no reasons to adopt the distinction between applicants and employees that the city has suggested. Accordingly, the court granted summary judgment in favor of the plaintiff as to liability, finding that her Fourth Amendment rights had been violated by the city's requirement for a pre-employment drug test for her non-safety sensitive position. The court noted that while suspicionless drug testing of applicants for employment may have become routine for private employers, public employers are more constrained by the Fourth Amendment. This decision seems to be consistent with the recent trend by the federal courts to increasingly restrict the ability of Florida's public employers to drug test their employees. See, for example, AFS CME versus Scott 717 F3D 851 11th Circuit 2013, holding that a suspicionless random drug testing policy for all state employees violated the Fourth Amendment. It appears that under current law, a Florida public employer can only lawfully drug test its applicants or employees under the following circumstances: reasonable suspicion, random testing for a true safety-sensitive position, routine fitness for duty, and follow-up testing. Furthermore, it appears that in order to justify the random drug testing of safety-sensitive employees, an employer may be required not only to demonstrate that the position is truly safety sensitive, but may also be required to demonstrate a history of accidents or injuries constituting surpassing safety interests, either within the organization or within the industry as a whole, in order to justify suspicionless testing of even safety sensitive positions. Okay, so you can claim for damages. It's really interesting. The Voss decision did not reference either Florida statutes, which applies to the state and its agencies, which establishes a framework by which employers may secure workers' compensation discounts. However, it is worthwhile to note that the definition of job applicant for a public employer is limited to a person who has applied for a special risk or mandatory testing position. Interesting how you go and define these things that you think you're just applying for a job. Who knew? A lot of times you're signing up for mandatory testing. So make sure it's all contracts, guys. Okay, you don't have to take every offer you get. You have to, know your worth, know what you will not put up with, and if they're really of honor and someone worth working for, then you can proceed. Okay. So right here, accordingly, the language of that statute appears to be consistent with the rationale and holding in Voss. But it goes into it more. So just to let you know that it is, deemed, this is from Saxon and the law offices of Saxon and Gilmore. It is unconstitutional. People are hurting. And, the consequences, it really is. You can mess up someone's lives, right? And, the consequences is, potentially ruining a life. Mandatory drug tests, are a big deal. They're not particularly helpful in determining an employee's ability to perform a job's requirements. Drug tests don't test impairment. They just reveal whether a drug was consumed. A lot of people are on prescription drugs, which are so potent, which is basically a chemical lobotomy, but they're okay to work heavy machinery on that. But then they try to come at you over a leaf. Can't people see that there is an attack on this herb for a reason? Maybe because it is medicinal, okay? I mean, you're talking about the same government who bombs all kind of nations, but they're gonna worry about what the hell you ingest, but yet you look around, there's a fast food place at every corner. Really? Okay. So it says they just reveal if a drug was consumed. It could have been yesterday, a week ago, and what do they say? Cannabis stays in your system for a month, and the hard stuff is in there just for a few days. So, that's, already impartial. It says if an employee shows up to work sober every day during the week, should that employee or potential employee be punished or passed over because of the edible they consumed responsibly in their marijuana legal state over the weekend? Should employees who use cannabis as medicine, because that's what it was there for, and for holy rituals from the Jews. So when people try to just commercialize it and make a business out of it and not respect it, well, I mean, I don't think that's appropriate, okay, because this was very special to the Native Americans, and people are just, they take everything sacred and they try to make it profane, right? To the point where they try to criminalize you for even having it, So it's good that they're loosening up all of that crap, because the war on drugs was literally a war on the people using certain substances, but not on the people producing it or the big drug makers, right? You notice they're still walking around. So look, if an employee was fired from their weekend day job for drinking alcohol over the weekend, people would be outraged. That's true, regardless of the circumstances. Mandatory drug testing is a violation of privacy and a dangerous gamble for employers to make with the lives of their employees, because a positive result could have such detrimental effects on a person's life, and because it is possible for a person to receive a false positive. The only thing that really needs to be tested at this point is the logic, I agree, behind upholding such a risky practice. And that's from here, because it is attacking a certain group of people. And I've been talking about Psalms 83. And if you don't think all of this is spiritual, oh please, it's all forewritten in the Bible. Okay, I know the Bible has been altered, but the context of it is correct, especially the Old Testament and the Apocrypha. And I've already put up stuff, like if you want to go to my Kadesh Gardens, I'll put a link. But this is my natural skincare line, and I love just exposing all of the lies, that Big Pharma has for us. And I try to demystify this amazing plant. And I put up great references to show that it was mistranslated. It used to be called cannabism in the Bible. Look at this picture. Isn't that cool? They knew what was up. Look at all these books. So when my so-called relatives used to treat me like I was the biggest druggie in the world. Meanwhile, they were popping pills and drinking alcohol and doing God knows what, right? So I was born way ahead in my time, because I already knew that it was good, because you could just tell. How can you act like it's so bad? And I even put the article here that shows it's not called marijuana. That's probably how they copyright the name, and you get in trouble when you call it that, like Mary Juan, like Mary Jane. Don't call it that. It's not even the real name. And I make amazing oils and stuff, infusions, like my own perfumes, and our bodies are full of cannabinoids. So like instead of using like the toxic lotions and stuff and the toxic perfumes, which just causes allergic reactions, it messes up your endocrine system, really, really harms your immune system, weakens it. That's why a lot of those people who douse all that junk on get sick so much. I don't get sick as often as the next person, okay? I really, rarely ever get sick unless I eat something bad, like that type of sick, and that's it. So, I make really gentle products, and I like to demystify this plant, because even today people are like, oh, you smoke, you do, like, shut up. Yeah, and that's why you're not going to see this kind of stuff happen to me. But yet people who are even these blunt wraps, guys, even all these, flavored stuff all these millennials are doing, that stuff is horrible. Chemicals and chemicals. Anything synthetic is totally trash, okay? And this law, it's based off assumption, like you did something bad. It's attacking people who need it the most. You got assholes saying, oh, you should do it for welfare and disability. These people are sick. They're sick, okay? They don't know the law. They're sociopaths. They're psychopaths. They love the slavery. They love the modern day debt slavery. They can work 100 hours. Good. Go ahead. Go be a beast of burden. The rest of us are not beast of burden, because at the end of your life, you think the Most High cares about the dollar signs in your bank account? I mean, really, doesn't that sound stupid? So people glorify this concentration camp, the city life where everybody is undernourished. They're, overworked, and then if that's not enough, you're just trying to feed your family, right? When you do try to do something honest, and even if people do need welfare, isn't that what it's there for? What kind of barbaric system, what kind of sick barbaric system does not want to help the fellow neighbor in need that's down and out? or the widow or the fatherless. Isn't that what the Bible says to call out? They have no clue about this monetary system. That's why when they need help, they're not going to get it. Okay, when they're at their lowest, they will not get it. Okay, so I'll put this to unconstitutional this is all unconstitutional. Okay. And on February 26, 2013, a panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit preliminary found in LeBron versus Florida Department of Children and Families that suspicionless drug testing of welfare recipients is unconstitutional under the Fourth Amendment, and the requiring consent to such testing as a condition of receiving welfare violates the doctrine of unconstitutional conditions. This goes to every state. Okay, somebody needs it, they need it. Okay, people, you only suppose slavery or indentured servitude was only supposed to be 6 to 7 years. So when people glorify, I've been working for 50 years, you're a beast of burden. Okay, not all of us think that's cute. Okay, if you work for yourself, and yeah, working can mean a lot of things, expounding your energy on the things that you care about. Okay, yeah, working on your own land, working on your own business, working on yourself. But all people do is like they sell themselves out and they become like a guinea pig for these corporations. It's not bad enough they take you away from your family. It's not bad enough they have you working these long hours. Now they want your urine and everything else. What's next? They want your eggs and your sperm. I mean, and people have been going for that a long time. And, and there's a lot of snakes out there who will call DSS on each other. I've seen that a lot too, guys. And I've had that happen to me once when my kids were young, like some shit, your so-called frenemies, they'll do that trying to hurt you. And they were trying to get a test out of me. And I told that lady, you need to get the hell out of my face with that. I kicked her right out and they closed my case. I'm like, you don't have a right to do that. I didn't do anything to warrant such a thing. I was so mad. My spirit was so vexed, And it's all based on assumption, and it can ruin your damn life with it. So just stay away from this stuff, guys. Don't be scared of, the Most High's natural medicine. They call it the devil's lettuce and all that. Those are for the dumbest a-holes. Yeah, because they want you to be on the chemical stuff. And then you'll see people who do take pills and everything. Don't you see how their teeth disintegrate right out of their face? I've seen that. I'm looking at these people. They think they look so good. I'm like, wow, it looks like they aged 50 years. And I'm good with that. Okay, so if you want to call me a pothead and look down on me, yep, you keep doing you. And we'll see who feels like what in a few years, right? But all this stuff is unconstitutional. So if you took anything away from that, guys, please just know that it's all based on assumption. It's horrible, and it is unlawful. It's bullshit, and don't put up with it, because these type of tests are what making people go out and get the fake stuff. Because when I was younger, they used to try to push the stuff on me. And I think I did smoke some fake stuff when I was younger, and it tasted so awful, and I got a migraine for so long. So, yeah, there's chemicals and poisons and stuff. So, don't be scared of the Most High's plant, okay? Are you really gonna let Big Pharma and the damn government, who don't give two F's about you, tell you that this plant, who's been helping millions, that it's bad? Yeah, I don't think we should believe it, right, guys? So check out my Facebook page, give me a like, and you'll learn a lot of good stuff. So I hope this helped, and I'll talk to you soon.